Hello, welcome to the MX Group's Strategic Content Marketing Series, How Using Content Maps Can Attract and Convert More Buyers. My name is Suzanne Martin, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at the MX Group. I've been a marketer for many years in B2B, and I currently am leading marketing at the MX Group, which is an Ad Age Top 50 demand gen and digital agency. In my background, I've worked at large corporations like Motorola and 3 fast-paced startups, which was pretty fun. And today, I get to work on topics that all of us care about as marketers, how to really apply modern marketing principles and practices to effectively grow our companies. Now, today on the roadmap, we're going to talk about the content challenge that we all face as marketers, and also specifically how content maps can be developed and how they tie back to buyer journeys and to the personas that they've been built for. This is the third in a 3-part series of webinars that we offer, so I will share with you at the end how to access the other 2. So what is content marketing really? This is a phrase and a term that we've heard many times as marketers. And yes, we all have been developing content our entire careers, but there's something different about the way the buyer journey is today thanks to digital and the digital transformation that we're all going through as both buyers and sellers. And so content marketing has risen as a phrase or a term to describe what's different about it. It is definitely about making sure that you're distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content. And it's not that we weren't trying to do that all along, again, as a career marketers, but there is something that with the amount and the tonnage of content that's out there today, that it's so important to get it right, because somebody will be able to get it better and more right than you, and they're going to win, and you don't want that. And digital allows people to easily manage the comparison of content and sift through and find what they need. So you want to get to being the most valuable and the most relevant. You also want to make sure that you're attracting and retaining a clearly defined audience and that you know them really well so that you're providing them with the right content. And that means making sure that you've designed content to engage prospects and customers at every stage of the buyer's journey. And in some ways, by looking at it this way, it becomes more of an evergreen strategy. It's not a stop and start campaign. And as marketers, we do sometimes, have a practice of thinking about things as a push or as a campaign, this is this month's initiative. And that's a very inside-out view of the world. And while it is realistic to think that as a business, you do have your goals and your targets and you have things that you are going to launch to market, you do need to think about where the buyers are at. They aren't thinking about your product. They're thinking about a need state, about some desired outcome they're looking for that has a business value. And it eventually gets articulated in a solution that may have your name on it. But in the beginning, for sure, it doesn't. So you really do need to think differently today. And so we're going to talk about content marketing in that realm, in that way today. Now, content marketing isn't easy. And as marketers, we all know just how difficult it can be, even though it's ironic because we seem to be creating and generating more content than we ever have in our careers. But over half the marketers out there today would say that they ironically don't have enough time to devote to content marketing. And when we do develop our content, over half of us believe that it's not very engaging and we're still struggling with how to get the right content developed. And it's important to the companies that we work for that we do this right, because almost $1 billion a year is being wasted in B2B organizations in the US on this very topic. And so there is a strategic foundation that's very important to have in place to drive all of our content marketing initiatives. And there's actual dollars attached to it when it doesn't get done right. And there's a lot of solutions out there today. A lot are being pushed at you as marketers by the technology companies in particular. And it's, look, just do better in terms of just being better able to attract more inbound leads. But wait, also get better at your outbound programs. And make sure you leverage real-time personalization. And make sure you go omni-channel. Cover all those devices, cover every medium, which is why we're developing more and more content than we've ever felt like we've developed before. We're getting on this hamster wheel of content. And then we add to it now leveraging account-based marketing principles and technologies and tapping into predictive analytics. And there's so many more, and there's more coming every day. And they are all very reasonable solutions to the buyer journey and managing the content problem. But the problem is it seems like it's just getting more and more complicated, and you just can't manage all this together. But really, when you step back from all of that, there are really three simple answers, and they seem very simple, like deceptively simple, but they are very powerful if you do them right. One is understanding the buyer, truly understanding the buyer. Two is knowing their journey, knowing the need state that started it, knowing the evaluation process that they go through, and the selection that they're going to do when they go to spend their money on that solution. And the third is to identify the content that matters most to number one when they're on that journey on number two there. So it seems, again, deceptively simple, but it's very powerful to have a very solid strategic foundation in place and tie your content marketing programs and your technology to enabling all that together. Today, we're going to focus on number three here on the list, which is optimizing your asset library with your B2B content maps. So this is, again, a three-part series on strategic content marketing, one being the buyer persona, to get to truly understand the buyer. Number two is mapping out the journeys and understanding the need state that starts it and how you pull that together. And then three is content marketing. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'll share with you how to access those other two webinars. So let's talk content maps. So content maps. To create targeted, effective content, you do have to know what your buyers want, need, and care about, and content maps help you literally map it to their journey. So today what we're going to cover in this webinar is what your business needs, why your business needs a content map, what type of content should map to each stage of the process and the funnel, and where interactive content fits in the mix, and how to start mapping your content needs. So let's start with a common definition of content maps. Now, a content map is a cross-section of your personas and the buyer's journey, and the best way to assess your content gaps and opportunities. As I said earlier, this is not about creating a lot of content, it's about creating the right content. And when you map it to the buyer's journey, you can very carefully define what you have and what you need, and then build a plan to go about completing it. Why do it? As I mentioned earlier as well, this can cost your company real dollars and money and inefficiencies to not get this right. And to get the results right, though, your content must be persona specific, buyer focused. It's about meeting their need state, answering their questions. So when you think about being buyer focused, you're answering questions they have at each stage of the journey, and you're mapping it to the funnel. Now, mapping to the journey will highlight the content that truly matters. Now, if you've got extra time on your hands, great, create a bunch more. But make sure you're getting right the content that answers the questions on this journey. So now we normally talk about this in buyer-centric terms, but let's talk about the sales team and the sales need for a moment and think about it not as education, evaluation, and selection, and think of it more as discovery, consideration, and sales driven to close. As you think about the types of content that map well to these different phases, you want to optimize that mix by mapping it to the funnel. So top of funnel is, like I said, it's an educational phase for the buyer. They're in discovery mode, so that's where you provide content that will help educate them. It's not really content you want to gate. Really, you want to try to extent possible, provide, them with information without a high price tag, if you will, and the price tag being providing their information because they're really not ready yet. It's blogs, webinars, thought leadership, and yes, you're going to create and gather some content, like for example, webinars you need to register for in most cases, of course, but you're not looking to the buyer to provide you with an undue amount of information that's not out of whack with the value of the information being provided. Now, middle of funnel, when they're more in consideration, it's a little deeper. You can ask for a little more commitment on the part of the buyer, but now you're providing maybe proprietary case study stories, more specifics on data sheets on the product, deeper analysis, some white papers to help them with evaluation, as they're a little closer to what they need in terms of their definition of their problem that they're trying to solve. And then the bottom of the funnel, they're in commitment mode, they're in decision-making mode, and you want to provide more content here that's going to help them convert and go through the final close on the process. Interactive content is really powerful in all stages of the buyer's journey. because it allows buyers to explore their needs and gain insight, and it helps them do this on their own. And as I mentioned in an earlier webinar in this series, it's really important to think about not getting leads to the sales team quickly, but getting to them when they're ready. So it's not about speed, it's about readiness. And interactive content can help the buyer explore their need set, get their questions answered, and bring them to you in a more enthusiastic state. It also helps you listen and discover, because as a buyer provides information in the tool as they fill it out or if they complete some assessment or whatever that interactive tool happens to be, that is your ability to listen to what they're saying. What's important to them? What are their problems? How do they articulate? What words do they use in terms of articulating their challenge? So when they do come to you, you are more insightful about their need state. As I said earlier, it does create more enthusiastic and sales-ready buyers when they do come to you. And in some ways, you think about interactive tools, it's like your best salesperson. It acts like an automated version of your best salesperson, because traditionally, marketing would quickly get a lead to sales, and sales might have to spend a little more time with education, with influence, etc. And if you could do some of that in a more automated fashion, it's better use of the sales team's time. And again, it gets back to that, desire for the buyer to come to you more ready and not reluctant, but more enthusiastic. There are 6 types of interactive content: simulations, assessments, ROI calculators, product configurators, e-commerce, and then there's gamification. Each one of these has their own uniqueness to it in terms of where it might fit best in the funnel, as well as the different things it asks of the buyer to do and the types of information it provides. Simulation, obviously, as it says, simulates the conditions that the buyer sets for the product, for your solution to solve, say, whatever their problem happens to be, and it provides sort of a window into what that solution would do for them. Assessments are survey-like in nature. Typically, the prospect would take that, answer some questions. The assessment might spit out a report, some kind of a summary that says, based on your answers, here's a recommendation, or here's just a state of being. Here's where you're at. Here's your assessment. Those are very popular. ROI calculators have been around forever. In some ways, it feels like we've heard about an ROI calculator through marketing's transformation. But today, more than any time in marketing's history, the ability for users to access the right type of content or data to use an ROI calculator in a more powerful way has made this a really powerful tool. Product configurators are very, again, obviously something where you would go in. It's probably further down in the funnel. Person knows what they're looking for, but they want to see, how would I customize this product for myself? And they don't want to talk to sales yet. They just want to play around with it on the website. A configurator will allow you to do that. E-commerce, of course, is interactive in terms of, a lot of websites have this, but used more and more in B2B as a way to engage a prospect in the right way. And gamification can be used on either side of the sale, as a prospect or as a customer. Gamification is great for building communities and great for engaging people in an ongoing fashion, particularly after purchase. Here's an example of a marketing assessment tool that we actually created, and it is an online assessment to determine strengths and areas for improvement for today's marketer. Self-evaluation provides insight, right, without involving sales. This is something that literally you could take. You could go in, take this assessment. It ranks you relative to your peers who have also taken the assessment. And this tool even gives you the ability to customize your follow-up. And in other words, you're not just going to give your information and get a phone call the next day. There are 3 options for you to select whether or not you want to talk right now, or if ever you just want to get a couple emails, you want to get no emails. So by giving you as the buyer or the prospect, or any buyer or prospect, the control over the communication mechanisms, it's a more comfortable tool for the prospect, and you actually find increased conversions as a result on that. Now, beyond content types, there's a need to map that content to the journey. And in essence, at the highest level, you may recognize the top of this as the Series Decisions framework, the way it's been described by Series Decisions. education, solution, and selection, and the sub phases under each of those. If you look at each one of your personas, you have to say, and fill in, just basically you fill in the gaps here. What do you have in your asset library that meets the need of that persona in that stage of the buying process? You will also find you may have gaps when you do this work, and that's how you know what you need. This is one of those devil is in the details sorts of exercises, and it seems a bit tedious, but in the end, this is the most powerful grid you're ever going to build for your content map, because you, by sitting down and looking at not just what you have, but what's working. And there are a variety of ways to figure out what's working, but in the end, you don't need many pieces here to meet the need. But if you, from your buyer journey work, you know what questions are being asked in each phase of the journey, then you say, if Larry Leader has these 3 questions in the education phase, what am I doing to answer those questions? What do I have in terms of assets to answer those questions? You document them here. You could say, I have these pieces for Larry Leader, but I don't have them for Frank Finance. I need to create those. Or sometimes it may not be relevant, but in some cases you have a gap that you have to fill. And so this is a great way of literally with your team, you can map out what you have and what you need and start filling the gaps. Now, a bit on technology. I know we haven't talked much about that. Today, because of digital transformation, not just of the buyer's journey, but also of the methods being used to engage the buyer, you do have opportunity here to use technology to make your content marketing more effective. There's 3 main ways that technology can help you if you really do it right. There's inbound engagement. It is important to not just have your marketing program be outwardly focused and always be hitting outbound, because it's not very efficient in the end. It's part of the way you want to market, and that's saying you'd go away from outbound. Outbound can be effective, but inbound is so important because, as I said earlier, the journey is very driven by the buyer, and they know when they're activating it, they know where they're at on it. So what are you doing to distribute relevant content to them at the right stage that they're in? And also it helps you with nurturing less qualified leads with follow-up. Also, if they're coming in, you can start to automate your way of engaging with them to get them further down the journey. Personalization using marketing automation is key. Marketing automation for many marketers today is still used in a traditional way. It's like you've got big tools, but you're still doing batch and blast emails, for example. If you really, really use your marketing automation effectively, it is much more literally automated, and you can use it to personalize the experience more for the end user, for the buyer. Now, drip and nurture journeys are another way that, again, you couldn't manually and physically manage all the variations and the ability to customize how you engage with someone through their entire journey. But technology can help you do that. It can automate how you engage with them whenever they start their journey, but it also helps you can segment by product interest, buyer readiness, by previous transactions. You can create targeted emails to encourage interaction that, again, over time are just repeatedly connecting with that buyer along their journey. And it creates more opportunities for hand raisers. So as, again, they may not be ready on email 1, but maybe by the time that they see something else in the journey, email 3 or 4, they may raise their hand. It gives them another opportunity to do that. On measurement of effectiveness, there are lots of ways to measure your content marketing and how effective your content is, and whether you've got the journey right, and whether you know your persona well enough. And you could swim in a sea of detail. But I really wanted to bring to the table here a really great framework that SiriusDecisions has for measurement overall. And it's not just about content. I know it seems a little bit big to be putting into this webinar, but I really am a big believer in it. And I think if you think about this for your content marketing, and really as it wraps around your larger marketing operation, it will serve you well. If you think about what we measure today, a lot of marketers measure activity. How many emails were sent? How many opens did I have? How many people clicked on that link? And that's measuring activity. And it doesn't really do much for you really to optimize around that, because it's a fact. Yes, I now know how many emails I sent and how many were opened, but really you need to go up what I call that value chain of measurement higher into other types of measurement. output. So some marketers are able to measure how many demo requests came out of their marketing activity, how many inquiries or proposals. And that shows a little more to you and your management team. What is marketing doing to really drive my business? I can see direct results of the actions that I've taken. But even then, you want to go even higher than that, which is to impact. How is your marketing program truly driving revenue for the company? And so many marketers today are being asked to really show how they are driving the growth of the company. So think about your marketing measurement efforts now. Where are you at on this value chain? And underneath all of it, or on top of it or underneath it, whatever you want to put it, think about your readiness. Because one frame of metrics that's really important is you may want to do something but not be able to do it. And so you could say, well, I can't do it. So then when you measure it, it does poorly. But it's also because maybe you weren't ready to do it yet. CMOs are really looking and taking a hard look at their readiness. Is their database effectively managed? Do they have sales and marketing alignment? Do they have an SLA in place to manage sales and marketing? Do they have the right talent and skill set in the organization to enable modern marketing operations? And so measuring on readiness is also very important. And that, as you relate it back to your content and your content marketing, again, you could say that, for example, your technology readiness. We just talked about technology a moment ago. You really want to do certain things, but you can't because you're not ready yet from a technical standpoint. So start tracking that, because you'll see, as you see progress on that, you'll start to see progress on the rest of your content marketing program, and it will show movement. It'll also explain to management why you can't do certain things today. So just think about this framework of measurement as you look at, again, not just content marketing, but really all of your marketing efforts. So what's next? Okay, so again, this is part of a 3-part series of 3 key things that you need to have in place for effective content marketing. Understanding of the buyer, so buyer personas. We have a webinar on that so that you can watch. The second is understanding the buyer journey and the need state that drives it, and I'm building that out. Lastly is today's topic right here, which is content mapping. All 3 of those work together to provide you a strong foundation, but there is work to be done on that. And if you have any questions anywhere along the way, don't hesitate to reach out to us at webinars@themxgroup.com. We can help you with any of these 3 topics. They are very powerful and very necessary to running a really strong marketing operation. As they seem strategic and they seem think tank, they are very practical, and they can be done in a way to really be operationalized well across your business. So feel free to call us if you have any questions on how to get that done. So let's continue the conversation. You can go to our website and explore our ebooks. You can take that modern marketing assessment I mentioned earlier. It's a great example of interactive content tools. You can see how it works, and perhaps maybe you'd like one for your customers. And lastly, you can follow our blog. Go to our website and just subscribe. Every month we do put out a digest in email to make it easy for you to scan what you might have missed. Thank you very much, and have a great day.